you know, living in the family that I live in and catching heat for that sort of stuff. And also just—
For being a Reiner?
I guess. I mean, people would like to think that's a real bigger deal than it actually is, but it's really like, I was an emotional kid who had problems and I just was not so fond of myself, so I kind of, you know.
Rob Reiner's story with All in the Family hits deeper than most people think. Born Robert Norman Reiner on March 6, 1947, in New York City, this guy didn't just grow up around show business, he was born right in the middle of it. With a father like Carl Reiner, the comedy legend behind The Dick Van Dyke Show, Rob was practically raised on punchlines and camera lights. The pressure? Oh, it was real from the start. His mother, Estelle Reiner, also made her own pop culture mark with that unforgettable moment in When Harry Met Sally, that famous line, "I'll have what she's having." That single line became one of the most iconic movie quotes ever. Imagine growing up in a home where laughter, timing, and creativity were just part of breakfast. Rob didn't just learn entertainment, he lived it every single day. But being the son of a legend came with a huge shadow to step out of. Instead of letting it crush him, Reiner pushed harder. He studied filmmaking and directing at UCLA, showing early on that he wasn't just chasing fame, he was building something that would last. Acting may have opened the first doors, but his education? That became the foundation of everything he created next. Rob Reiner's breakout moment hit in 1971 when Norman Lear took a chance and cast him as Michael "Meathead" Stivic on the revolutionary sitcom All in the Family. Playing the fiery, idealistic son-in-law to Carol O'Connor's stubborn, old-school Archie Bunker, dropped Reiner right into the center of America's living room debates, where comedy met controversy in real time. Meathead wasn't just a character, he was a force. Loud, opinionated, and always going head-to-head with Archie, he brought that spark that made the show feel alive. Their clashes weren't just funny, they were explosive, real, and loaded with meaning. Reiner managed to balance humor and heart so perfectly that audiences didn't just laugh, they felt it. Over 9 seasons, that magic earned him 2 Emmy Awards and turned TV nights into real talk about life, family, and everything people avoided saying out loud. But even while shining on screen, Reiner had bigger plans. He refused to stay boxed in as just the actor. Behind the scenes, he was soaking up everything, working closely with Norman Lear and some of the sharpest writers in the game, studying storytelling rhythm, pacing, and the power of character over gimmicks. Every episode became a lesson in how to build something timeless. Those weren't just acting years, they were training years. By the early 1980s, Reiner made a fearless leap stepping behind the camera and claiming his space as a director. That single decision didn't just change his career, it redefined how Hollywood saw him forever. What came next for Rob Reiner wasn't some lucky break, it was a straight-up legendary run that almost didn't seem real. From 1984 to 1992, he went on an unbelievable streak of hit films, jumping across genres like it was nothing. Every project either won critics over, crushed at the box office, or did both at once. It all started with This Is Spinal Tap in 1984, a mockumentary so sharp and hilarious it completely changed how satire was done forever. Then in 1985 came The Sure Thing, a smart and funny road trip flick that proved Reiner could balance romance and humor with ease. Just a year later, he dropped Stand By Me, 1986, a raw and emotional coming-of-age story that hit audiences right in the heart. In 1987, The Princess Bride arrived mixing love, adventure, and pure wit into a classic that still feels fresh decades later. And then came When Harry Met Sally in 1989, instantly becoming one of the most adored romantic comedies ever made. But Reiner wasn't done yet. He flipped the tone again in 1990 with Misery, a chilling psychological thriller.
Or alcohol or gambling, whatever they're doing it because there's a pain. There's something inside they don't feel good.
And that iconic line everyone still quotes, "You can't handle the truth." Very few directors have ever shown that kind of insane range. Reiner proved he could make people laugh, cry, reminisce, and sit frozen in suspense all while keeping a real emotional core. At the center of his films, there was always something deeper: friendship, love, truth, and integrity, all brought to life through powerful writing and knockout performances. Actors trusted him completely and often gave the best performances of their entire careers under his direction. And let's not forget, Reiner co-founded Castle Rock Entertainment in 1987, named after a Stephen King town. The studio went on to shape pop culture with legendary hits like Seinfeld, The Shawshank Redemption, When Harry Met Sally, and Misery. What a legacy. At a time when Hollywood was going wild for big-budget flash and over-the-top effects, Rob Reiner kept his eyes on what really mattered: substance. And wow, did it pay off. He wasn't chasing explosions or empty spectacle. He was building stories that meant something. Beyond the glitz, Reiner stood for depth, truth, and purpose, and that made him stand out in a sea of noise. But Reiner wasn't just a force in film. He's always been bold about politics and social issues too. He's never stayed quiet about democracy, civil rights, or calling out those in power when they cross the line. Whether people cheered for him or fired back with criticism, one thing never changed. Rob Reiner spoke up. He never hid from the heat, and that fearlessness? It goes all the way back to his All in the Family days. The passion, the conviction, the willingness to challenge, those weren't just lines from Meathead. They were his real-life values shining through. As the years rolled on, those beliefs stuck with him. Later in life, Reiner made a smooth comeback to acting, taking on roles with real authority executives, political figures, powerful decision-makers, characters that carried weight and that signature Reiner confidence. With his dry, knowing humor and commanding presence, he delivered unforgettable performances in films like Primary Colors, The American President, and The Wolf of Wall Street. He proved that even off the director's chair, he hadn't lost a bit of his sharpness. While his career kept climbing, his personal life had its own share of twists and turns. Through it all, family, loyalty, and love stayed at his core. Back in 1971, he married actress and rising creative powerhouse Penny Marshall, a union that perfectly captured the electric, changing vibe of Hollywood in that era. Rob Reiner stepped into fatherhood early and didn't hesitate for a second. He adopted Penny Marshall's daughter, Tracy Reiner, from her previous marriage, and that bond ran deep. Tracy later built her own acting career, proving that talent and creativity flowed strong in that family. Even though Reiner and Marshall divorced in 1981, their story didn't fade away. It remained a chapter built on ambition, respect, and two artists growing side by side through Hollywood's wildest years. Then came another unexpected twist during the making of When Harry Met Sally. While directing that now iconic film, Reiner met photographer Michelle Singer, and the connection between them was instant. It wasn't just chemistry. It was creative energy sparking in real time. Their relationship even shaped the movie's tone, influencing the emotional ending that helped turn it into a timeless classic. Talk about life-inspiring art. What began as a professional spark quickly turned into something real and lasting. In 1989, Rob and Michelle tied the knot, building a family grounded in honesty, independence, and creativity. Together, they raised 3 kids, Jake, Nick, and Romiash, growing up surrounded by stories, cameras, and plenty of spotlight. Their oldest, Jake Reiner, followed in the storytelling path, first working in film and later becoming a respected television news reporter in Houston, Texas. His journey mixed creative roots with real-world journalism, a true blend of both his parents' worlds. Their second son, Nick Reiner, faced personal struggles with substance dependency early in life, something Rob has spoken about openly and with heart. Instead of hiding it, he used it to spread awareness and push for compassion and understanding. That honesty showed the world another side of him, a father who cared deeply and wasn't afraid to speak truth, even when it hurt. Through everything the Reiner family faced, one thing stayed solid: responsibility, healing, and moving forward. They didn't believe in silence. They believed in growth. Their youngest, Romy Reiner, carved out her own creative lane as a filmmaker and writer, earning respect for her authenticity and strong connection with her parents. Romy has often spoken about the values that shaped her life: empathy, truth, and the courage to face difficult topics head-on. Across marriages, parenting, career highs, and personal battles, those values stayed at the heart of who they were as a family. Off-screen, Rob Reiner's life wasn't polished or picture-perfect. It was raw, real, and deeply human. He's always been open about the highs and the lows, never pretending it was all smooth sailing. And while he proudly celebrates his time on All in the Family, age and reflection have added more layers to how he remembers it. Looking back, he's admitted that beneath all the praise, fame, and cultural impact, there were real moments of pressure, stress, and quiet struggle that stayed with him for years. "It was one of the most important experiences of my life," Reiner has said, but he's also been open about the fact that it wasn't always joyful. That honest admission perfectly sums up what he now calls the sad truth behind a show millions still adore. When All in the Family took off, Reiner was incredibly young, thrust right into the spotlight as Michael "Meathead" Stivic, the outspoken liberal constantly sparring with Carol O'Connor's Archie Bunker. Almost overnight, he went from a newcomer to the center of one of TV's most intense creative battlegrounds. Surrounded by veterans and big personalities, he had to learn the hard way how to hold his ground without losing himself. "I was a kid, really," Reiner admitted. "I had strong opinions, but not the wisdom yet to know when to push and when to listen." That honesty shows just how real his journey was, messy, brave, and full of lessons that shaped the man he became. That wild mix of youthful confidence, fiery opinions, and politically loaded storylines often dropped Rob Reiner right into the middle of serious tension both on and off the set. He's been real about one of the toughest parts of his All in the Family years, his complicated relationship with Carol O'Connor. On screen, their clashes were pure comedy gold, but behind the scenes, things could get heavy, emotional, and draining. Reiner has said that people often assumed he and O'Connor disliked each other because their arguments felt so real. But the truth ran much deeper. "We respected each other," Reiner explained, "but we came from completely different worlds." O'Connor, older and fiercely protective of his character, sometimes pushed back hard against changes or challenges. Meanwhile, Reiner Jung, passionate and still finding his voice, often felt like he wasn't being heard. "There were moments when I felt unheard," he's admitted, and that quiet frustration stayed with him long after the cameras stopped rolling. But the most painful reality for Reiner came from how the audience interpreted the show itself. All in the Family was designed as sharp satire to shine a light on prejudice by exposing it, not excusing it. Yet, instead of questioning Archie Bunker's bigoted views, some viewers started cheering for him as if he were the hero. That reaction hit Reiner hard. "It broke my heart," he once confessed, explaining that the show was meant to hold up a mirror, not celebrate the ugliness it revealed. Watching people clap for the very behavior the show was trying to challenge became a wake-up call for him, a harsh lesson about how tricky it is to use humor to change minds. That experience showed Reiner that even the smartest satire can be misunderstood, and that real change doesn't always come as easily as a laugh. Rob Reiner has opened up about the personal toll that came with living in constant debate and creative tension. Those heated discussions, emotional scripts, and non-stop pressure to deliver powerful episodes week after week, it all built up in ways the audience never saw. "You don't notice it at first," he said, "but carrying that much tension eventually catches up with you." While viewers at home were laughing, the cast was often wrestling with the deeper, heavier emotions underneath the humor. The line between acting and real feelings got blurry, way blurrier than people realized. Even so, Reiner never forgets to show gratitude when he talks about those years. He's always praised Norman Lear's genius and the show's massive cultural impact, knowing that All in the Family reshaped television forever. "I wouldn't trade that experience for anything," Reiner has said, "but I wouldn't pretend it was easy either. That one line says everything. It holds pride, pain, and truth all at once." Looking back, Reiner doesn't sugarcoat what went down. He's honest about the fact that All in the Family wasn't built on peace and harmony. It was forged through tension, loud creative battles, and constant pushback from every direction. Every single episode carried risk, and every joke pushed boundaries that could explode at any moment. Sometimes the backlash hit just as hard as the praise, but that's exactly what made the show powerful. That raw honesty still gives All in the Family its punch today. It reminds everyone that real change doesn't happen when things are comfortable. It comes from discomfort, from daring to say the things others won't, and from standing strong when the world pushes back. The laughter from All in the Family echoed through homes all across America, but behind the scenes, it wasn't all smiles and applause. There was pressure, exhaustion, and emotional strain running deep. Writers clashed, cast members disagreed, and scripts were dissected line by line until every word hit just right. Acknowledging that doesn't weaken the show's legacy, it makes it stronger. It proves that powerful art doesn't come easy, it's messy, demanding, and deeply human. Years later, that same human side surfaced again in a heartbreaking and deeply serious moment. A sudden emergency involving Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Authorities rushed to their Brentwood home in Los Angeles, and the situation was instantly treated with full urgency. Details were scarce, but everyone could feel the weight of what was happening. It wasn't something anyone could brush off. Friends and longtime colleagues were stunned, struggling to make sense of it all. The sight of flashing lights and emergency vehicles outside a home once filled with laughter and creativity was haunting. It wasn't just another Hollywood story, It was real life crashing hard into a space that once felt safe and full of warmth. Conversations across the industry changed overnight. People stopped gossiping and started reflecting on Rob's legacy, his family, and the emotional weight he'd quietly carried for years. That home, once known for open doors and joyful energy, suddenly stood still, silent, tense, and surrounded by the harsh rhythm of an emergency scene. The contrast was surreal and gut-wrenching. In that moment of shock, confusion, and disbelief, the Reiner family did what families do best. They leaned on the people they trusted most, holding tight to love and support when everything else felt uncertain. Not long after authorities were contacted, Romy Reiner made a desperate call, her voice filled with fear and urgency. She reached out to someone who knew her father far beyond the Hollywood spotlight, Billy Crystal. That call was short, tense, and impossible to soften. The moment he heard her voice, Billy knew exactly what was going on, and he didn't waste a second. He and his wife rushed straight to the Reiner home, stepping into a moment no one could ever be prepared for. His presence said it all. It wasn't about words. It was about decades of friendship, countless laughs, creative battles, and a bond built on pure loyalty and love. In that instant, everything else fell away. What mattered was being there, showing up when it counted most. That moment became more than just another Hollywood story. It was a reminder that even legends face heartbreaks that shake the world around them. Behind the fame, the awards, and the laughter, these are real people with real pain, love, and humanity. Moments like this peel back the curtain and show us the truth that even icons need someone to lean on when life hits hard. If this story moved you, drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another untold Hollywood story. More shocking and emotional behind-the-scenes moments are coming your way. Stay tuned.